All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Geek View podcast. I got Lara back here with me,
Hello!
and
Hi.
we were texting each other like 20 minutes back, and we're just like, let's record another episode, but we did not know what to record the next episode about, so we decided to talk about three different Netflix shows. And does that sum it up accordingly? Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of went like, "Hey, I'm bored. It's cold outside. Let's record an episode."
yeah, no, it's a pretty much the right way of
Living.
summarizing what just whatever. Forget
Yeah.
it.
All right. Yeah.
Uh, we decided, all right, we're gonna start off with talking about No, not Umbrella Academy. That's the one that
No.
only I have seen out of the two of us.
No. Okay. Okay. So I've just started Umbrella Academy, but let's do a little summary. We're gonna be talking about sex education.
Yep,
We're gonna be talking about Russian Doll.
that's not one that I have seen.
Wait, you haven't seen that? Wait, I
I haven't.
thought we agreed we wanted whatever. Okay, I'll talk about Russian Doll.
You can talk about Russian Doll. You can try and sell me on the show. How about that?
Honestly, okay, yeah, I will. I'll do that. And
Okay,
then you can talk to me about Umbrella Academy, but I just started it, so like don't spoil it for me because I'm just on the second episode.
sure.
So,
All right.
very
Then, do
very
we want to
new.
start with sex education first?
All right,
Okay,
let's start with that.
I started it a while back, so I will give or I finished it a while. I literally finished it like literally maybe 2 days after it came out, because it was on my what do you call it? You know when you open up Netflix and it just recommends
Yeah,
the new shit that they have.
recommended. Yeah,
It
yeah,
just
yeah.
came up as a recommended thing, and I watched the trailer, and I'm like, I actually really like this, and I like the main actor in the show, the guy who plays
Otis,
yeah, Otis.
the kid.
Asa Butterfield, that's the actor's name.
Mhm.
Uh, I actually kind of like that guy's like, I don't know. Think
How
he's
old is he? Like
uh
he looks
he's
16.
he's 21, so
Oh, he's 21.
yeah. Almost everyone in that show is in like their early to late 20s. Like all
Mhm.
the kids in the show are between early to late 20s. Like
Yeah.
for me, Asa Butterfield. Like I know a while back, like I watched Boy in the Striped Pajamas,
Mhm.
and he was the main like kid in that. Like
Wait, that was him?
yeah. Asa Butterfield played the main
Oh
kid.
wow.
Like not he played the like what do you call it? He's like the commander's son or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I don't know what the yeah, something along those lines. But like then he was also there in Hugo. He was there in Ender's Game. He's done like a few things here and there that I've watched him in because like they just popped up, and I actually really like um, the show or the movie or whatever it was in particular. I've mainly only seen him in movies, but like yeah, basically those are my thoughts on it. So I kind of knew one person before I watched the show, and that's why I was just like, oh, this kind of seems really cool. I want to check it out, and it popped up on Netflix's like recommended thing, and that trailer really sold me.
Mhm.
And so I decided to like literally watch it 2 or 3 days after it came out, and I finished it in like one binge setting. Like I think it only has like 10 episodes or 8 episodes, so I finished 6 in the very first night, and then I watched 7 and 8 the next day.
Oh wow. Yeah,
Uh,
no, but I pretty much binged watched it all as well. I
exactly.
think it took me like 3 days, but then like I watched it all. So it
I
was
think
good.
like this actually highlights the perfect amount of episodes that I want most Netflix shows to have. To be honest, like I really love the fact that like it's only 8 episodes, or some other shows have maybe 10 episodes, and that for me is a perfect amount. I know a lot of Marvel's Netflix shows used to have like 13 episodes, and I always felt like that was a little too long because episode 7 or 8, I am like checking out for like 20, 30 minutes uh, at a point where I'm just like I don't care at this point. Like it's too much bullshit.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
I,
I guess it kind of depends. Like, I guess it kind of depends, like, what you're in the mood for. If you want to, like,
mhm.
watch something quick, then you'll watch like something that only has one season. But if you're looking for something that you can, like
No, I'm
turn
talking about
into your life.
I'm talking about purely based off the fact that like this is Netflix's own creations, like Netflix originals.
Mhm.
Like obviously stuff like The Office or whatever other like sitcoms you want to talk about or something like that. Those are, you know, pre-done. They're already done. So they're 22 episode seasons or whatever it may be. But when it shows like House of Cards, other shows where it's like when it goes past that like line of 10 episodes, it really needs to be
Yeah.
something incredible for it to have my attention for more than 10 episodes at that point.
Yeah. No, I get it.
And
I get it.
like if it's 30-minute episodes, then I understand pushing it to like 13 episodes or something like that. But if you're gonna have like hour-long episodes, I really like it when it's like 8 or 10 episodes because that's more than enough time to tell a whole story. Like miniseries are that cover a lot of topics are usually 8 to 10 episodes that are each hour long. So that's why I used to find it weird when they experienced like a big level of success when like Marvel's like Netflix shows were their Defenders show, which was like all four of the heroes coming together, was only 8 episodes, and
Mhm.
everyone finished that within the first couple of days, and that was
Yeah.
like that made a huge difference to me. But let's go back to it, like sex education. I don't know. Give me a short review of what you thought. Like I don't know if we have different opinions on it because I don't think we've really talked about our opinions on the show itself.
I thought it was um I thought it was funny,
Hmm.
but sorry. I thought it was funny, but I thought it was still very real. And I thought it kind of captures the like awkwardness of that phase and kind of brings you back to all those like weird little moments that you might have as a teenager, but then still it's not superficial, it's like actually a very the themes that it touches, like obviously sexuality first and foremost, but you know uh like with his friend being gay and Maeve having her abortion and all these different people dealing with different things. I thought it was realistic and it was very sweet, but also very well thought out, I would say.
All
It's
right.
not superficial. It's not superficial, which I appreciate.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Um, I I had this conversation sometime in like December of 2018, and that's why it was weird that the show came out right after. And then I think I had this conversation with someone else after watching the show.
Mhm.
But for some reason, being out of high school and being out of college, I always like I had this idea from rewatching certain things that I had watched back when I was in high school that like I would lose connection to particular things because they're based off of stuff that like happened in high school or happened in like early stages of college, like movies that are just like I'm about to graduate high school and go off to college, and like more of the coming
Yeah.
of age movies. I felt like that I had outgrown them because
Yeah.
it never, like I would not feel the same sense of connection that I would have gone, say, I don't know, like I remember watching like American Pie when I was like 14 years old or something like that, and
Mhm.
that was like something that you would look forward to or something along those lines, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I mean, to be honest, this is exactly the reason why it took me a while to actually start the show, because
Yeah.
literally, I think I just saw it like 2 weeks ago. I started
Mhm.
watching it and then I finished it. But I'd heard people talk about it,
Yep.
but from the outside, it always just seemed like, oh, it's probably just one of those
Like a
like
high school drama show or
teen,
something like that.
yeah, like teen
Exactly.
drama kind of thing. And I don't really care about seeing a bunch of teenagers like gossip and bang each other and whatever.
Like
Um,
No, no.
But
Go ahead. Sorry, what were you saying?
no, sorry. But then, like, I'm glad I actually watched it because it's deeper than that.
Like at the end of the day, that was my kind of issue before I started watching the show. And the one thing that I realized is like, even though it's based off of stuff from the past or something like that, the way that the show handled it was actually really interesting to watch happen. Because yeah, it's called sex education, and you would think that like um sexuality is like the first and foremost for every episode, and it's just, the title makes it seem like it's almost similar to like uh teen like sex dramas or something like that, but
Hmm.
it's not.
I think
It
it's
really
more about. I think it's more about relationships
exactly that's the
rather
thing.
than sex.
Like
Yeah.
it touches upon, just like relationships with your parents, different things relating to like we oh, shit Jackson, was it Jackson who was like the swimmer, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Jackson's like issue with having all of these expectations on him from from like his mom's and stuff like that. So those particular things that you can connect to no matter how far out of like high school you are, whether you finish college, like until you're in your early mid 20s or whatever it may be, like that's something universal in my eyes, of just
Hmm.
dealing with expectations that other people put on you or something like that. And it was like topics like those where I thought like this isn't like it's really well put together TV, because it's not something that like other people would delve into, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I really enjoyed it. I think it did a really good combination of like dealing with humor as well as like all of these other things where it brought in cliches. Like one of the things I remember watching it with someone else, like I was watching the show for like a second time as a way to introduce someone to the show, and one of the things that they brought up was that the first episode has a lot of cliches, like a traditional high school cliches of like the jock and the weird kids and
Hmm.
stuff like that. But then that almost instantaneously goes away by the second episode, because they delve way more into the depth of those things. And at times it changes like what the actual stereotype that you're being presented with is. And I don't know. I thought it was a really, really solid hit by Netflix. And the only thing I found kind of weird was that for everyone that's like, in high school between the ages of like 16 and 18, everyone was like really well put together. Like everyone, like, even though they had their own issues and stuff like that, like some of the characters are just like way too on top of their shit. Like almost
Hmm.
everyone in that show is like their personality comes off as an overachiever. And I'm like, these guys are 16 to 18. Like they should all just be slobs or stupid or something like that.
I mean, not. I don't know. I mean, not necessarily. I do think they did sound a bit like more mature than I would maybe
Yeah.
remember being at 16. Here's the thing. I always feel like when you're 16 or like, 16, 17 or whatever, you always feel so deep or like so intense, and you think that you're going through like the hardest thing ever, and like, I mean, you might, but like, just, I feel like looking back to how I might have been as a teenager, or like how my friends might have been, or even looking at younger people now, like it seems like everyone is so intense and like so hashtag adulting when they're like 16, when they're actually not, you know? So I feel like the TV show kind of captures that intensity of that period, but then
Yeah.
you kind of get it. You can see the contrast with like his mother. That's She's like, I do this all the time. It's perfectly normal. Like, I feel like the contrast with the adults being like, this is all part of growing, is actually is actually like a good, like, when Otis talks to his dad on FaceTime, and he
Hmm.
talks about like his problems and like the fact that he's still a virgin and whatever,
Yeah.
and his dad's like, oh, it's like totally fine. I actually really liked that scene because I felt like it brought it reminded you that these are all like still kids. They're all still just teenagers going through the same stuff that everyone's going to go through at some point.
I think the other thing that I also really enjoyed about the show was like when it dealt with the parents for these kids, it didn't show them to be like a particular like way of being. Like they all had reasons behind the way that they were, and they all had their own very own flaws, like why they were acting the particular way that they were, and then they would make their own mistakes. Like you got to see Otis's mom still hook up with like the person who is Otis's, like, I guess, girlfriend at the end of the show, her father.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to see that even like it didn't kind of show this thing as like, oh, it's just like hormonal teenagers doing like their own things and making rash decisions or something like that, but it kind of showed that like that thing never really dies out among people. And that's kind of like a really interesting thing to bring forth, and like a interesting point to bring forth.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I definitely agree. I
like,
feel like,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I didn't really have a point. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I felt like it was very relatable. Like there was definitely one character for anyone in there, And even the fact that, like, yes, at the beginning you might think that it's very stereotypical. You got the jock, you got the cool kids, you got the little, like, you got the weird girls, but I feel like it's relatable because even though, yes, these like characteristics are kind of you know um, brought to an extreme where they are made for the story. There's it's I feel like everyone would be able to recognize a certain group or a certain characteristic or a certain character in their own life, you know? So I definitely like that it was very relatable, and even the parents were, um, they could have been my parents, your friend's parents that behaved that way, whether it's like the overprotective mothers or like the over helicopter moms for Jackson, or the mom trying to be a little, Jean when she's just like a normal, regular, concerned mom, but she also tries to be cool, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the the Swedish guy, I don't remember his name.
Oh, the person who comes by to like the
To
mechanic
fix
that comes by.
the
Yeah.
plumber.
The
Yeah.
plumber. That's what I meant to say. Um.
Um, yeah, so I just felt like it was relatable, and it was something that everyone would be able to see in other people in their life, in their real life,
No, I definitely agree with what you're saying about the show. I think at the end of the day, one of the reasons why the show did so well among like that particular age range that I know Netflix was trying to target, which is like the 16 to 25 range or something like that. Or I know it's like 13 to 18 and then 18 to 25, but like I'm going to just round it off to say like 16 to 25. It did really, really well in that category. And I know that they put out that like 40 million people watched the show from beginning to end or something like that.
Wow, that's
And
crazy.
yeah, but it kind of makes sense to an extent because like there's a lot of people that have Netflix that are within that age range, but you also combine that with the fact that like that's what they did. They made it kind of a deeper show, but they didn't make it into a slow burn show, like where you get bored with the characters or something like that. It's 8 episodes, it's point to point, but it really delves into the characters of that show, and then it also
Mhm.
brings forth like actual points that people in these like age ranges care about or something like that. And then at the same time, it didn't become preachy about it. It just showed it
Yeah.
as a real thing that happens to people. It didn't try to like push something onto you. And I think that's what it did incredibly well, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was definitely not preachy. That's that's a actually great way to put it. But yeah. No, you're right. I liked how it was very realistic. It was very like yes, we have some deeper scenes, but we also have those lighter scenes and lighter moments because that's just life, you know?
Hmm.
Sometimes you have to deal with things that are just the way they are, but other times, you know, it's not everything is the end of the world and we can also keep living and you know, again, this is just like real life, real stories, very relatable stories and relatable characters and people that you might know.
I think for the reason why, and this is going to be my last point for it, the reason why this show kind of stuck out a lot to me, at least from a lot of the recent things that I've watched, is that it is really, really hard to make regular stories interesting if they're not reality TV.
Mhm.
Because at the end of the day, even reality TV is heavily exaggerated. And that the reason behind it is like regular stories can kind of get really, really fucking boring. And that's what I found really good about this is that it didn't make it they didn't kind of say like this happens in this like major city or anything like that. It's like we're gonna pick a random ass town, we're gonna put like random students together or something like that, and we're gonna write something about them. And it was like they focus more on the attachment for the characters more than anything else. And I don't know, like I think it's really hard to write something like that and keep people's attention at the end of the day. And this was able to do that. So that's like my last piece of like I guess appreciation for the show, and my last point about sex education as to why it stood out so much.
All right. Yeah, cool. Let's move on.
Yep. All right. Do we want to talk about Russian Doll now, or do we want to talk about Umbrella Academy? What do you think? Okay.
Let's talk about Umbrella Academy because you haven't seen Russian Doll.
All right. Should I talk about it first? Or actually, no. You just started it, right? You're
Okay.
going through it. Give me your thoughts on it, and like you can obviously spoil the episodes that you've watched because I've already watched them.
Okay, literally I've just seen like the first one and I think the second one or maybe it's the third one, but I definitely didn't see 4. Okay, so I like the premise. I just the fact that they're all like born at the same time out of
Hmm.
nowhere. That's definitely the mystery for me or like
Hmm.
what I'm looking to find out as I watch the show.
Hmm.
Um and um I like the idea of the little kid or like the brother number 5 that travels through time and then comes back and he's still young and like we can't really figure out what actually happened to him and like
Yeah.
why he's still young. Um so I would say that so far I like the idea of the story. I like the fact, just their background story and how um what's her number 4 or Vivian? What's her name?
Vanya.
The Vanya. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Number
I,
7.
yeah, I feel like number 7, yeah.
Yeah.
I again, I like how they showed a little bit of their background and how they grew up and why this old weird guy adopted them and created this kind of a boarding school for superheroes, and I kind of want to figure out how he knew they had powers or like how he found out and
Hmm.
all that, but I'm sure that's going to come out later on. um I feel like there are a couple things that I'm not sure I want to spoil, but I kind of have an idea already where I'm like, I feel like I might know where this is going, and I don't want it to be predictable. Like, the thing about this show is I want it to surprise me,
Hmm.
and so far, it hasn't. You know?
Okay.
That,
Yeah.
that's what I'm feeling. Um, Even the character of the dude that wants to hang out with Vanya,
Hmm.
I feel like I know where that's gonna end, you know? So I don't want to give away too much. And how far into are you so I can figure out how much you're gonna spoil it for me?
Oh, I finished the show already, like a
Oh,
week back.
okay. Okay, okay. So
Um,
what are your thoughts? Is it gonna surprise me? Or is it gonna or do you think that the hints I'm getting now might just be all there is to it, or like
Sure.
I might just be right?
So here's the thing that kind of this is where my start for the show was very different from yours.
Mhm.
Umbrella Academy is based off a comic book, right?
Mhm. It's by
And
the same guy that did that did oh my god, I'm blanking.
are you talking about the comic or what are you talking about?
Yeah. The writer. What's his name?
He's
Um.
that's he wrote he was like from My Chemical Romance. It's Gerard Way.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
what I. Yeah.
Yeah, so at the same time while he was writing like the most angsty music, uh
Mhm.
and a pretty solid album. Like Black Parade was an incredible album, and Three Cheers for My Sweet Revenge is also a really good album. He also wrote Umbrella Academy. I don't know if he wrote Volume 2. I did not read Volume 2, but I kind of read Volume 1 when I was like trying to find random ass indie comics to read and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Uh, so um, I kind of had like somewhat kind of had some kind of an idea. Like I knew that something about like the Vanya aspect to it. Like
Mhm. Like I
I
feel like don't tell me this, but
yeah,
here's what I think is gonna happen.
yeah,
And don't tell me, okay?
okay,
Um, but I feel like in like we're gonna find out that she probably has like the craziest superpower. She ends up being like the most powerful one of them all.
mhm.
Um, I don't know. I feel like that always happens. When someone doesn't have the power, then they end up being the coolest one.
Sure. Like I'm not gonna tell you anything about it, but it's just for me. I kind of knew certain parts of the comic or like the show because it's similar to the comic, but it's also
Mm.
quite a bit different from the comic. And but like knowing those few things that I knew kind of affected any of the twists and turns that can happen in the show, if that makes sense.
Oh, because you read the comics too.
Yeah, I read them like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, so it wasn't like on the forefront of
Mm.
my mind. Like I only read what's called Volume 1 of the comics,
Mm.
and like kind of going back to it, I thought the show was a lot of fun. Like I kind of enjoyed watching it, but it's thinking about the show or thinking about the stories or something along those lines as the show goes. Like after I've watched it, if that it kind of reduced how much I like the show. For me, like one of the coolest things was
Mm.
like I really like the way that they designed the show. I really love the atmosphere that they build. This like weird like gothic thing that they've done. It's I like to call it like the Gothic X-Men thing
Okay.
because that's what it actually is almost to an extent. Like all of the characters are technically kind of mutants. Uh, the person who adopts them is kind of like Xavier and stuff like that.
Right,
Uh,
right. Yeah, no, I definitely see the parallels there.
exactly, and like that's kind of how I saw it. Where I'm just like, this is almost like a Gothic X-Men kind of thing, except it's not so much about like right versus wrong. It's not so much about like mutants are a representation for the ostracized people of the society or something like that. It's just like this thing, you know. It's characters, and it's like characters doing shit or characters like doing other kinds of thing, and I don't know, like that's the best way to put it. Where
It's like,
it's
oh, watch these cool characters and see how they deal with their situation kind of thing.
exactly
Yeah.
like to answer your question about how do you figure out that they had powers or something like that, I don't know if he did. I think the reason why he adopted all of them and they kind of like delve into that in the first like 5 minutes of the show, but it's
Mhm.
super easy to miss, is that all of these kids were born without any pregnancies.
Right. Yeah.
So
They're
that's
born
the
out of nowhere. Like the
exactly
girl that goes in the pool and then she's like, "Whoa," exploding at
exactly no
the
that
very beginning.
that was the reason why I think his entire thing was like, I'm gonna go around and try to find all of these kids that were born with no pregnancies beforehand,
The
and
thing
he
is though,
found 7 kids. Yeah,
right, he only found 7, but there were 12, right?
43.
What? Oh,
Yeah, there
I
were.
missed that. Okay, lol. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
there were four, and that's what like I think that's what they're eventually trying to like build something towards or something like that.
Right.
They
Finding
might
them
want to.
all.
Yeah, yeah, that might be a thing.
Although
But
probably some big chunk of them, like honestly, they're not gonna cast 43 characters. They're gonna kill off like half of them and be like, oh, they died in an explosion or whatever.
no, I mean
If we
it's kind of
find them.
it's kind of visible. Like you've watched the first two or three episodes, so you know that there's only six of the seven there, right?
Right, right. One of them,
Uh,
one is the dead guy though, right? The
yeah,
like, yeah,
Ben,
the
like
one, yeah, the
he's
one that the crazy one sees or that the drug addict sees.
yep, that's the one that like Klaus has the ability to speak to the dead,
Klaus. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so he sees their brother Ben. But I don't know. At the end of the day, like I thought the when I was watching the show, I could not stop watching it, right?
Mhm.
But at the same time, as the show progressed farther and farther, I was watching it as a way to get to the end, and not as a way to like enjoy everything that was happening.
Yeah. See, that's kind of like see,
But
now
yeah, go ahead.
Kush,
Yeah.
now you're making me debate whether I'm gonna watch it all. Honestly, I'll probably watch it all because my parents are watching it, and then we have something to talk about. You know,
Next episode is gonna be with Laura's parents. No, I'm kidding.
like in Italian. Usually, we want to hear my mom talk about how to make food. She'll give you good recipes, but anyway, I don't know. To me, it hasn't been that gripping,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I don't like rush home from work and say, "Oh, I gotta watch The Umbrella Academy." I rush
Yeah.
home from work and then realize that I have nothing better to do, and so then I watch The Umbrella Academy.
Like I did.
um,
Here's the thing. I did not know that Umbrella Academy was like on Netflix or was being released on Netflix or whatever.
mm,
I was in New York, and I went to my cousin's place, and he just had the show on. Like he was just at
uh-huh.
home watching Netflix, and that's how I figured out that Umbrella Academy was on. And he was only like 20 minutes into the first episode because he had just finished watching like some particular anime show. So he's just like, I want to watch whatever's new on Netflix. And
Mhm.
because of that, he's just like, oh, I'll just rewatch the first 20 minutes. And then I watched the first episode over there. And that kind of gripped me, but it has a lot to do with the fact that I have a information about the show beforehand. B like I've and you know this about me. I love science fiction related things, superhero related things, fantasy, literature, all of these different things. So shows like these, if they grip my attention and they don't like piss me off in the very first episode, I'm more likely to finish the entire thing. Like there's a
Right.
reason why even though the shows like Roswell and all of these like different shows that get put onto like CW and other places where they'll be like, oh, they're sci-fi or science, like science fantasy or just fantasy shows. I'm not attracted to them because their characters are like shitty. Like the characters are made for tweens or like their target market is like 16-year-old girls or something like that. So their characters are developed more for the aesthetic aspect and less for actual interesting things. The thing about this show was like its market isn't like the typical CW market, but it has a show that's similar to something like that. And
Mhm.
see, like for example of CW shows would be like something like the Vampire Diaries or something like that. And they all kind of follow this like gothic art design. And like I don't know, for me, the thing that I found incredibly good about the show is the way that the show looks. What I found bad about the show is the way that it kind of it's too slow at times, and it delves too much into unnecessary crap that like really does not contribute to the show's larger theme.
Really?
Yeah, and the
Mm.
fact that like the 13 episodes that they have, I think it's like a 13 episode show, right? Like I'm pretty sure it's a 13 episode show. Could have been shortened down to maybe 7 or 8 episodes if they cut out the crap that's there. Like literally that, or at the very most, like I can understand filler a little bit. By 10 episodes, they would have hit what they need to hit, and that third, like last 3 episodes, could have been
Better.
like something else altogether. They could have included an actual really cool storyline. Maybe they could have included something about finding all of the others or something like that.
Yeah. Or
I
like a
think
reason to watch season 2 if they do a
exactly,
season 2.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that the last episode is a pretty solid payoff to an extent. But
Mm,
at the same time, like in my eyes, it felt like, oh, this is incredibly cool that we're getting to watch this. But then it also felt like a kick in the balls with the way that they ended the show.
mm.
And
Okay. Yeah,
I don't know.
I haven't seen it, but I'll let you know what I think about it once my parents get through it first.
Wait, do your parents actually listen to our show at all?
Our podcast?
Yeah, the podcast. Do they actually
No,
know you
they
do?
wouldn't understand. They know, but they wouldn't understand anything.
All right, that's understandable.
But like I tell them like, "Oh, I'm recording this with Kush." And they're like, "Oh, that's cool. Like good for you." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's fun." And they're like, "Keep doing it." And I'm like, "I probably will."
No, that's pretty good. Yeah, those are actually my thoughts on it. Like, I think Sex Education ranks much higher on my list of like, if I had to
Yeah.
give it like a ranking, like Sex Education is much higher than Umbrella Academy is, but
Uh-huh.
I just find Umbrella Academy cool to look at. Like, I would buy art that was done in Umbrella Academy's like poster style or something like
Yeah.
that. If that makes,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I get it. I get it. That's cool. Yeah, I feel like I haven't I haven't watched it enough to be able to say to talk much
Here's
about
the
it.
best way to put it. Like, it's creative, but in the wrong areas at times.
It's what?
It's a really creative show, but at times it focuses on the wrong areas to be creative in.
Yeah. Okay.
That's my way of like. I'm not gonna say it's a bad show, but I'm not gonna say it's a great
But it
show
could be
either.
better. It could be
It could
cooler.
be much better. It could
It
be
could
so
be
much
more
better.
exciting, more thrilling. It
Like
could be more gripping.
exactly when you have the ability to make the Gothic X-Men, make it the Gothic X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you have anything else to contribute to that. I don't. Tell me,
No,
or we can move on to Russian Doll.
let me sell you on that.
All right. Tell me about the show. Tell me
Do you have
why
5
anyone.
minutes?
Do I have
Why?
5? Are you
Sorry.
trying? Are you trying to be like a Jehovah's Witness thing or something like that?
No,
Just like
I'm trying to be like give you like a sales pitch. Hi, my name is Lara. I'm calling from the Geek View podcast. Do you have 5 minutes to hold a substantial conversation with me? Sorry, this comes from my sales training.
but tell me about like I know you keep telling me to watch the show.
Okay,
And
yeah.
I said like I don't know. I watched the trailer. It didn't really sell me. So why should I?
I think you should watch it for 2 reasons.
Okay.
Number one is that the actress, I think her name is Natasha Lyonne,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah. She is so good. Like
I'll go.
she is
Yep.
just incredible. I love the character, and I think she does such a great job at bringing her to life. She is so weird and funny and charismatic, but also you kind of don't like her, but at the same time you're like, that's me. It's
Mm-hmm.
very um I just think the character is incredible, and it makes me want to watch her more because I want to be her,
Mm-hmm.
but also like I want to be cool and smooth like her, but also like I don't want to be her. But I think the character for sure the number one reason why you should watch that show. Fascinating character, great actress portraying her. And then the second reason I think you should watch it is because it um it's quick episodes that really they kind of grip you, and it's unexpected. You watch the first episode and you think you know what's going to happen, and then it changes, and then it makes you it starts off as like a comedy kind of thing that you think it's going to be like a funny show, and
Mm-hmm.
then you realize that there's you're no longer watching for the humor, but you're watching for the story and trying to figure out what this all means. It's kind of very existential. Like I think it makes you think about life and the way you live your life. You know, I thought it was I think it's a great show, and it's a show that makes you, if you're watching it, like if you're following it and you try to read into it, there's definitely stuff for you to find that can keep your mind occupied for quite some nights.
Okay, here's what I'll ask. Like, summarize, I guess, not the synopsis, but what is the show about at the end of the day?
Okay. So I'm sure you watched the trailer on Netflix, but basically it's this woman that she keeps. It's kind of a little bit of like a Groundhog Day kind of vibe, where you
Mhm.
keep reliving the same day,
Mhm.
and she keeps dying. And she knows that it's happening. She tries to avoid it, but it just keeps happening.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden, I don't want to ruin the biggest twist, but I really don't want to ruin the biggest twist. But all of a sudden, she finds a connection with a person that
Mhm.
kind of change. It doesn't really change the fact that she keeps dying, but it changes her awareness to how is living her life, I guess.
Sure, sure. I can like. It's
Hmm.
very vague, but I do kind of
Yeah,
get what
no.
you're saying.
Honestly, I don't want to tell you. I
What
really
exactly
don't.
happens? Yeah.
I don't want to tell you what exactly happens, because that's like, I I think it's like 4 or 5 episodes in.
Mhm.
Um and I'm not sure how many episodes. I think it's like 10 episodes. So it might be more like 4 episodes in. But
Mhm.
you do spend quite some time just with the main character. With her, I don't even remember her name, to be honest, but like what's her name? Volvo? Volvo-Kish? Natasha or something? Whatever. Anyway, no, Natasha's the actress.
Natasha's the actress's name. Yeah. I kind
Nadia,
of get what you're
Nadia.
saying.
Nadia's
I
the main character. But
okay.
anyway,
Yeah.
you spend a lot of time with the main character and you start to like her, and then something happens and you're like,
Mhm.
oh, wow, there's a reason why this is happening, you know?
Mhm.
But then again, after that, like kind of midway point
Mhm.
where there it starts to become a little more reflective and deeper on like life and choices and the way we live with people and the way we treat people. I Then at the end, the ending is its own thing that like also don't want to talk about. But like once you get to the end, you're gonna be like, I feel like it kind of left me being like, hmm, now what? You know? Like I would definitely watch a season 2,
Okay.
but it could either end there
Mhm.
or it might not. I don't think it's gonna end there though, because there's there's more to learn. There's more to figure out. Ah, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to ruin
Okay.
it for you.
I
Watch
kind
it.
of do get your idea, but like it's almost also like if you tell me more about the story, it ruins the show directly.
It ruins
So,
it. Exactly.
what you're basically trying to tell me is that like the thing that makes it really interesting is that the
It,
premise is not super unique, but it is kind of unique, and then you combine that with the fact that like it delves super deep into the idea of life and existentialism and stuff like that.
it goes deep, but it's still it's not like a super dramatic thing.
Hmm.
At least I didn't think it was extremely
Is it?
dramatic. I just thought, okay, so I think you should watch it because the actress is amazing
Hmm.
and the story is going to surprise you, and it's going to entertain you for just the right amount of time. So that's where I'm going to leave it.
All right.
I don't
All right.
want to tell you more because The story, you think you're gonna know what happens, and you don't. Like you don't. So I'm gonna leave it at that.
No, that's a pretty solid amount of information, and to an extent, I might give it a try now.
Mm-hmm.
No promises,
I
but I
think
might.
this also, I know that you like the technical aspects of films, and I definitely
Yeah.
think the cinematography here is, I mean, this is not a film, but a TV show. I definitely think the cinematography here is good. I love the color scheme. I think
Mm-hmm.
the colors are so interesting because it's mainly set in New York at night.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think there's loads and loads of very interesting shots and transitions.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to look out for that, definitely an extra point to consider. It's artistic. I would say it's an artistic show.
All right.
So
I guess this is going to be the last question about the show to kind of close it off, and
mhm.
that's going to be: is there a reason behind why the show's called Russian Doll, or is it just like a good name, or is it like because it unlayers more and more information as the time goes by, like opening up a new Russian doll all the time? Is that, I don't know.
Um, yes, there's a reason why the show's called Russian Doll.
Hmm.
There is a reference to like her having these little. I think they're called matryoshka in Italian. I'm not sure what
Hmm.
they're called. I think they're just called Russian dolls in English. I'm not sure if anyone calls them matryoshka here, but she does have memories of her childhood where she does play with Russian dolls. She's also like Russian. Her name is like Nadia Volvoshik, something like that.
Sure.
So it could either be the actual Russian doll that she used to play with as a kid, or
Hmm.
she's the doll because she's Russian and she's being played around with. Blah 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 blah
Okay.
blah. I don't want to say too much.
Okay. No, that's more than enough. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I think, I don't know.
I need you to watch it,
It.
Kush. I'm not gonna take
I
you to
will.
brunch if you don't watch it.
Okay, so here's what I can tell you. I am finishing up Big Mouth right now. I will watch Russian Doll right after that.
Okay, perfect. All right,
And
and then we'll get back to me. I'll
yeah, I will.
quiz
I
you.
will. I'll bring it up in, I don't know, some podcast episode farther down the line once I've finished the show, and then we can have a conversation about what I thought about it or something like that. How's that
All
sound?
right. All right, sounds good. We'll do it over at that croissant place that we were talking about.
Ooh, yeah, that actually sounds like a good idea.
Let's do
Uh,
that.
Probably not going to record the podcast at the croissant place though.
Probably not, but we'll come back with some good material. We'll try to sound smart. I always try to sound smart, and then I just listen back to these things, and I'm like, ugh.
I think there are certain people that find it really really easy to keep talking on, and there's other people that like to think about what they say before they say it.
Yeah.
Like I think you think about what you say before you say it, which is why you take pauses before you say something.
Do I pause a lot? Oh my god.
You do, yeah. Like you'll pause like every once in a while where you're just like it's almost like you're thinking about the sentence before you actually say the sentence out loud.
You should just edit that part. It's like 1 minute of silence. Just cut it.
No, that takes way too long. Like all of that would take way too long. There's a reason why I just like leave the podcast unedited because it's
It's
the
raw
best.
and it's real.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. It's perfect and it's like unedited
It's
form because
perfect. We're perfect.
like
Sorry, I'm messing with you.
I mean I could edit the podcast. It's just gonna make it. I don't know. It's then it's gonna be like a different product than what it actually was.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I don't. For me, my favorite podcasts are the ones that like people just keep talking on, and then they don't really want to edit anything about it because then it seems like
Like edited. It seems like
it
it's
seems
not
edited.
natural.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
no, I get that. I get that.
And yeah, that's I don't want to drone on about this for way too long.
Mm-hmm.
I so we covered three shows today, kind of.
We covered three shows.
We
We both
both really liked Sex Education.
Yeah.
I have moderate to upper moderate appreciation for Umbrella Academy. You are still watching it, and you think Russian Doll is really great, and I need to watch it, and I'm probably gonna watch it right after Big Mouth.
Yay! Cool. Oh, and everybody should watch You, the creepy
No,
one, the
please don't.
stalker one.
Please don't.
Okay, honestly, like, okay, it's not like super great quality. Like, I'm not gonna try to play it up. Okay, it is what it is. But I thought it was watchable, and I thought it was whoa.
Like
Just cut this out, cut this part out.
All right, we're gonna call it over here. See ya, everyone. This
All
is
right.
it. We'll come back with
Let us
I don't
know
know.
down in the comments what your favorite TV show is, and don't forget to subscribe.
I have turned on the comment section for each of the episodes when they go up on my website. So there you go.
Ooh, that's
If you,
awesome. I'll leave all the comments.
all right, see ya, everyone.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Oh no.